In this lesson, we're going to be learning how we can find the answer to a division question involving fractions without ever actually having to divide any fractions. Now, since it's fractions, let's just make sure that we know that this is the numerator, that's how many pieces we have, and that's the denominator, how many pieces would make up a whole, and so that's 3/4 right there. Now, in this lesson on dividing fractions, we're also going to have to do a bit of multiplying fractions, so let's make sure we're still good with that. So here's the things I'm going to multiply. Now, the basics is that you've got to multiply the numerators together and the denominators together, but man, that's not going to be easy. What's like 35 times 56? You want to try and work that one out in your head? Let's try and make life a little bit easier for ourselves. And so we do it by simplifying before we multiply. So we can find the highest common factor of any numerator and any denominator. So in other words, any number that goes into, for example, 32 and 56. Remember, you usually go diagonally, but you don't have to. I could go up and down, but there's nothing that goes into 32 and 35. The only thing you can't do is go straight across. One must be on the top, one must be on the bottom. So with 32 and 56, 8 goes into 32 and it also goes into 56. So it goes into 32 4 times and it goes into 56 7 times. And then here these both end in 5, so that's pretty easy. 5 must go into both of them, and so 5 goes into 35 7 times and it goes into 25 5 times. Now what I'm really looking at is 4 over 7 times 5 over 7. And that's much easier to work out. Now I can do my timesing because they're just single digit numbers. So 4 times 5 is 20 and 7 times 7 is 49. So we just multiply the numerators together and the denominators together to get our final answer. And if I looked at my answer and I could see that something goes into 20 and also 49, then I'd need to simplify because that meant I missed something when I did my simplifying here. But it's okay, nothing does go into 20 and 49, so I've got my final answer there. Just be aware, if you've got mixed numbers, they need to be converted into improper fractions first. And speaking of mixed numbers and improper fractions, let's make sure we're good with that. So here's my mixed number, 3 and 4/5. I want to make that into an improper fraction. And so I'm multiplying the whole numbers and the denominators because that tells me how many pieces are inside all those whole numbers. 5 pieces for each whole, 3 wholes. So 3 times 5. And then I add the extra pieces I've got on the top. And so that means I've got 19 pieces altogether. So I'll put that on top. The denominator didn't change because the denominator tells me how many pieces make up a whole, and that hasn't changed. All I've done is add up all the pieces that I've got. And so if I want to go the other way, I've got 10 over 3. All I do is numerator divided by denominator because 3 pieces make up a whole, and I've got 10 pieces. That means 10 divided by 3 will tell me how many wholes I have, and there'll be a remainder. And that will tell me what the fraction part is. And so 10 divided by 3 is 3, remainder 1. And so that means it's going to be 3 and 1/3. Once again, remember, that denominator is not going to change. The first thing we want to understand when we do dividing fractions is the word reciprocal. And finding the reciprocal is pretty easy. It just means you flip the fraction upside down. So if I'm looking at 3/5, the reciprocal of it is 5/3. And notice that I've written this REC to stand for reciprocal and then 5/3. What I haven't written down is that 3/5 equals 5/3. That is wrong. Do not write that down. Do not put an equal sign between them because they are definitely not equal. The reciprocal does not equal the form of fraction. And so if I had a question that just said find the reciprocal of 3/5, I write reciprocal or REC is 5 over 3. Just flip the fraction upside down. Just like with multiplying, I don't like mixed numbers when I'm dividing. I'm going to get rid of them first before I do anything else, including finding my reciprocal. And so if I've got this 2 and 3/5, 2 times 5 is 10, plus 3 is 13. I can say they're equal because these fractions are equal. That's fine. That wasn't finding the reciprocal. And now, when I find the reciprocal, I will just flip this fraction upside down, and I'm going to use the same principle as not having lots of equal signs on the same line. I'm just going to go down. I've already used my equals there, so I'm going to go down the next line now and say that the reciprocal is 5 over 13. Just flip the fraction upside down. Now let's get into actually dividing fractions. And if you understood what the reciprocal was just then, and you know how to multiply, then you already know how to divide fractions, because we don't actually do any divisions with fractions. All we do is we flip the second fraction upside down, find the reciprocal of it, and we change it to a times, and we get the same answer as if we were trying to do a divide. So we don't need to learn any new techniques here. All we're going to do is we're going to flip this one upside down, so now it's 21 over 11. This divide turns into a times, and now I'm just doing some more multiplication. And if you already know how to do multiplication, then you're pretty good with the rest of this lesson. So let's make sure with this one here, remember we're looking for try and simplify it. Nothing goes into 4 and 11 or 4 and 9, but something does go into 21 and 9, and that's 3. So 3 goes into 9 3 times, goes into 21 7 times. Now I can do my multiplication just like normal. 4 times 7 is 28, 3 times 11 is 33. There's my final answer. If you typed this into a calculator, you would get 28 over 33. And so we can do it simply by finding the reciprocal and multiplying. So let's do some examples. We're going to state the reciprocal of 1 and 5/6. Let's start by writing it down. And then I hate the mixed numbers, can't do it with dividing reciprocals or multiplying, any of that stuff. So let's convert it to a improper fraction. 1 times 6 is 6, plus the 5 is 11. So it's the same as 11 over 6. I can use my equals sign there because these actually are equal. Then underneath, I'm just going to note what the reciprocal is. It's 6 over 11. Just flip the fraction upside down. In the second one, we're going to actually do some dividing. So let's start by writing down the question exactly as it is. And then underneath that, I can flip this upside down and change that to a times. And now I'm just doing a normal timesing question. And I've noticed that 5 goes into 5 and 10. So let's do simplifying. 5 goes into 5 once, and it goes into 10 twice. And so now 4 times 2 is 8. 1 times 3 is 3. I end up with 8 over 3. And let's just pop that back into a mixed number to have our final answer. And now let's take a look at one with a mixed number and a whole number. Now the whole number is easy to deal with. When I write it down, I'm just going to put a 1 underneath it. And then so that's 10 over 1. Now that's a fraction. That side's good. But this side is a mixed number. Let's convert it to an improper fraction first. We can't change the divide yet. Can't find the reciprocal. Improper fraction first. So 2 times 2 is 5 plus 1. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. So that's the same as 5 over 2. Now I've got two non-mixed number fractions. Hey, they're both improper, but that doesn't matter. I can now change that to a times, and I can flip the second fraction upside down. And now I'm just going to continue as a normal times. So any simplifying, 5 goes into 5 once and into 10 twice. So let's fix that up. Now I do my multiplying. 2 times 2 is 4. 1 times 1 is 1. I end up with 4 over 1. And remember, don't leave your answers with a 1 on the bottom. That's pointless. We just change it back to a whole number. And so that's just the same as 4. So time for some practice questions. Remember to pause the video. And there's our solutions to those with the working that needed to be shown. In the first one here, it was a mixed number, so I started by converting it to an improper fraction there, and then all I had to do was flip the fraction upside down and state that that was the reciprocal. And in the second one, I wrote out the question in full first. Then I had to change this guy into an improper fraction before I could do anything else. So that's what I've done there. And then the divide, it got to turn into a times. And at the same time, the second fraction flips upside down. And then I've got 2 times 3 on top, 7 times 5 on the bottom. And so I end up with 6 over 35. Okay, here's some more practice questions if you need to have another go. Remember to pause the video. There they are, the solutions to those ones. And that's the end of the lesson.